This is the Digital Trust Podcast. In every episode, we strive to bring support to those of you who serve on the front lines and in the trenches of data and technology. We endeavor to bring understanding to the under-resourced and underappreciated, help remove your stress, and provide relief to your pain. Welcome to the Digital Trust Podcast. Sit down with us as we give you hard-hitting advisory conversations to help you build digital trust with your stakeholders and clients, and actionable takeaways to help you become a digitally trustworthy organization.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of the Digital Trust Podcast. My name is Christian Redshaw. I am the co-host along with my co-host, Zach Eikenberry. Zach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome as well. I'm really happy too because the two become four. We have two more guests here, and I'd like to welcome Laura Payne. She's the CEO of White Tuque. I wish we had some White Tuques. Zach's just learned what Tuque means.
24 hours ago.
Translation in American language is beanie. And we also have Rob Stewart. So I have to read his title. Founder, chairman, and head of strategic threat intelligence at White Tuque. So that is an even fancier title. Welcome to the show, Rob and Laura.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Beautiful.
Always great to be here.
Awesome. Good to have you. So we're going to do a series. This is going to be part 1 of 2 right now. And it's going to be about proactive cybersecurity. So we're going to start with cyber preparedness or cyber incident preparedness. We want to reduce the impact when we're managing the cyber risk of a cyber attack. So that's what today's episode is all about. So how can we do proactive incident response? So the first question, I'm going to put this to Rob, is what type of incidents should we be preparing for?
Yeah, for me, I was thinking about that, and I would say maybe one of two things. Number one, get really good at responding to incidents and events, period. Understand what those stakeholders you need to get engaged really early on. Understand that, who are those decision makers we need to get together? What information are we going to need to fully understand that? I think if you look at a lot of people that maybe build out specific playbooks, a lot of those components are going to be the same along the way, especially when it comes to interacting with the business, your executive leadership, and the organizational groups I know that have been able to respond to a specific attack or an incident against them are really good at handling decision making during crisis situations and practice that quite a bit. And the other part to that to me would be is that start looking at those processes that you are probably going to need in the event of an attack or a cyber incident. Like, can you restore from backups? Have you done that in a while? Have you tried going off your backup network infrastructure? Those things are going to come up, and if you can get really, really good at those, you're able to build those specific type incident playbooks a lot more simply. And I think that's something that organizations can really do to kind of build upon what they have already.
Very helpful. Love it. So context is a big thing when you're making an incident response plan. Being contextual with an organization. How do you take something from being a template that somebody found on the internet into something that is actually useful for an organization?
Yeah, I think, even for us, when we have someone that's really stepping into that journey, we do start with a checklist. But that checklist is really a kind of representation of something else that you need to know or have prepared, right? It's going to ask you to either refer to a certain procedure, go to a communications plan, make sure you have, your legal team involved. There's a bunch of stuff that's not really definable in a checklist, but it's a really good starting place to start seeing what you're going to start building out, right? And again, as I mentioned before, start with those foundational items, the communication plan, the things that are going to be able to help your business remain a business or whatever the organizational unit is, right? And, that's a way where you don't have to be overwhelmed. You don't have to create, a ransomware playbook, an account takeover playbook. No, let's just understand how we're going to proceed through the incident life cycle, and then what resources we're going to lean on the way and do what we can to build those out over the course of time.
Yeah, Rob, I've heard somebody else talk about incident response as the ability to for surprises not to be surprising. And I'm curious, in your work, because you've worked for a while now with organizations of all sizes, it's actually a who question, who are the key roles that you really need to lean on in an incident response? And maybe if there's somebody that would be, unorthodox, you say, hey, we've discovered in organizations that this particular who is really helpful. I'm curious what your insights are there.
I think there's a couple of ways of looking at that. So right away, it's good to have either a primary and a backup. Who's that person that if we need to organize a call that can get that call open, that can reach the people we need to get that initial conversation and stuff started. That's kind of something right away. Also, you want to understand who's going to be doing the kind of communications. That's kind of a key part as well. The other thing I would look at too is who's representing the business on that technical discussion. Who can go back and represent the business unit to kind of make decision making. Now, I would say after that, after you kind of build out those kind of key roles, and if you're a large organization, you might have legal on there as well. You might have other inter-organizational groups that might have to come on. But I think after that, it becomes, who are the decision makers? If we have to make a really tough decision, who can okay this for us? So as an example, if we need to take a system down in order to restore or do something like that, it might not be one that's impacted right now. Who can communicate that out? Who can quantify the impacts? And you really that's also, and I would say that over my years doing incidents, that's probably one of the things that slowed things down the most is nobody wanted to maybe make a call. They wanted to really get a hold of somebody else, where there wasn't that clear decision making. That's where you get a bit of scope creep in a lot of incidents and things take long. So defining those decision makers are key in any response.
You mean beforehand? Like you should know before an incident that if something goes south, you need to have a key dot connector to organize that first call, which might be the biggest trick. So go ahead and have that, right? And say, like, we've got that in our back pocket. We know the who that can get the other who's on the line. And then when you get all those people on the line, it's already known who's going to make what decisions, right? And who's responsible for what, right? Because it is scary. Like the business might be under existential threat. And that's something where everybody's going to look to leadership. And the question is, have we already determined who those people are in the room? That's really good insight. Yeah.
And you know what? Those are simple things that any organization can implement if you dedicate some time to it, right? And it makes it a little bit less overwhelming as well, knowing that there is somebody there that is looking after that one, particular decision, and they'll be called upon if they need it, right?
Yep. So what I'm hearing, Rob, is that incident response planning is 100% the IT's responsibility, and it's a purely technical function. Did I understand that correctly?
That's a part of it, right? But I mean, the really good plans are when you have the technical aspects to an overall playbook that the business buys into, right? And that's where you can be really effective.
Yes. Well, we have Laura on the call. Laura is also extremely smart and articulate as well. So I do have a question for you, Laura, and that is thinking about the proactive element of incident response. A lot of folks might see it more as something that you do for compliance, as a one-time thing. What is your belief about that? Do you think it's more of an ongoing thing? And if you do think that way, how do you articulate that to companies that you work with?
Yeah, the ongoing aspect of it is all of those preparatory activities. So you're going to have certain things that are they're going to happen periodically, right? You have a program where you do a test every so often of your plan. You're going to do a review of your core documents, but there's going to be things. For example, we talked about knowing who the decision makers are. Well, if you have a good inventory of your systems and you're doing the continuous updating of who owns these different systems, these complex areas, you'll know this person, this line of business owns this system. If I have a problem in that space, that's who the decision maker is going to be. So, there's things like that. There's, changes in the organization. All right. Your head of communications has left and a new person is in that role. Have your documents been updated to reflect that? So there's, care and feeding, I think, is the continuous piece of it. And there's other things that are easier to practice on a continuous basis, right? Things like security awareness, doing a little bit on a regular basis. We know that's more effective than just doing one big shot one time a year, doing little exercises like fishes or other things that we can practice on a regular basis. They all flex that incident response muscle before we need a big incident response activity.
Yeah, this could be for either one of you all because you're both longtime experts and practitioners. Like, what are some of the lessons learned? If you had to say, like, my biggest lessons learned in this arena are blank. Maybe Rob, what are your biggest lessons?
For me, I mean, I'm addicted to postmortems, and they were some of the best opportunities for me as a guy that wasn't an engineer. I wasn't working in the tools department, but if you sat through an incident, by taking notes and being that kind of incident management, so many small, low-hanging fruit, quickly developed things came out of those, whether it be, hey, we needed an alert for this. Hey, we should have had a pre-canned communication for this. Hey, we should have done, there's so many little things that can come out of there that you don't really experience unless you kind of go through that walkthrough of what we would have to do. And even something as, hey, the person that we thought was the decision maker wasn't here. Who's their backup, right? Maybe that happened, right? It sounds very, very simple of a lot of the things that can come out of there, but not every postmortem when you do a review for lessons learned and try and go through that is going to come through with, hey, we need to go spend millions of dollars on a new tool. Hey, that may be something that's on your roadmap, but being willing to look at the lessons learned through an incident and take a scope in, because I think one thing is really important too, is that after an incident, everyone in your organization is now more experienced than they were when they started on a cyber incident response, right? They know their job. Tap into that, right? And find out what benefits you can find through that process. So always be open to lessons learned. But as for specifics, I could be here for a very long time, so I'll just stop with that.
These questions are supposed to be open-ended, Zach, but I'm going to ask a closed-ended question that's going to be yes or no, because literally that's all we have time for. So yes or no to both of you. You both get a vote. So tabletop exercises. Tested plans are effective plans. If a plan isn't tested, there's no way to know if it's effective. True or false?
True.
Excellent. We're gonna end with that dogmatic statement. Thank you very much, both of you, for being on the Digital Trust Podcast today. We're going to continue this series in the next episode. And thank you very much to our viewers and listeners for being part of this conversation today. We'll see you in part B.
Thanks for joining us today on the Digital Trust Podcast. If you found this conversation helpful, please share it with someone you care about. And if you'd like to receive our monthly newsletter, please click the link in the description to subscribe. And to put your mind at ease, our newsletter will include episode summaries with key points and actionable takeaways, plus a heads up on the upcoming episode guests. Rest assured, it won't be a spammy sales message, and we will never sell or share your information. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you on the next episode.